welcome to this painting tutorial. In this video we're going to look at how to paint an Imperial Fist Space Marine. This is a slightly more difficult color scheme to pull off than normal because it's a light yellow color, but there's a couple of things that you can learn from this tutorial so that you can have success painting this miniature. The end result is a very nice clean Imperial Fist Marine. If you like this tutorial, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and stay after the video if you would like to know how to support my channel. I'm going to start by very lightly priming this model with rust-oleum automotive gray primer. I'm using it very lightly. I would suggest you using a very light color primer such as white or gray so that you can work with the yellow color easier. I'm going to use Averland Sunset, and with this color I'm going to give the whole model a base coat. What is important to know about the yellow paint, you have to thin it down a little bit at least, and you have to give it a couple of layers or more, and if it doesn't cover too well, just leave it alone. Don't tamper with it while it's drying, because you're going to break the drying layers of paint and that'll look like crumbs and brush strokes. So I'm going to go over two methods of painting this marine. One is to use Seraphim sepia and wash the whole model. This is going to be like all of my other tutorials, which is base coat, then wash, and then clean up. In this method, the marine looks a little bit dirtier, and you can clean it up afterwards with a base coat of Averland Sunset again. And it looks pretty good, but you need a little bit more control over your brush so that when you are cleaning up, the paint doesn't go into the crevices again. And yeah, that's pretty simple, and that's the way that I always paint my models. Or you can just leave it covered in yellow and washed, and that looks pretty good. Here I am cleaning up with Averland Sunset, and you can see this method takes a little bit more control and using exactly right thinned paints to clean up the places again and make them look yellow again. This is a good method because you can leave the shadows on the shaded color, and you have to clean up all of the places around the model. The trick about using yellow is to give it a quick layer and don't tamper with it. Just leave it alone. Just give it a quick painting and move on to other areas. Don't move the paint around while it's on the model, because it's very tempting to try to retouch it real quick, and when you do that you break the layers of paint and you get a lot of crumbs and brush marks. The next method is going to be when it's all painted yellow. I'm going to go with a detail brush and paint the Seraphim sepia only on the recesses. This is a little bit more like a GW approach of painting miniatures. I like it, but when we're painting different colored miniatures, it's easier to just wash the whole thing and give it a layers, in my opinion. But because this is a very light model, I like this method a little bit more, because we're going in and just applying the shadow where we need it and just moving along. It takes a little while to get all the crevices, but it's worthwhile if you want a cleaner look and if you don't want to apply multiple layers of yellow over your washed model. And yeah, I would definitely recommend you to go this way, but you can do it either way. And after doing this pin washing, which is washing just the details, it's a good idea to go back and push the wash into the crevices where you put a little bit too much, and to clean up. I'm using Averland Sunset to give it a quick cleanup on places where I messed up, and to give it a highlight if it needs to. But this is a little bit easier because there's not too much cleanup if you did it right, and you can clean up the places where you messed up, like here on the shoulder pad. Next, I'm going to use Ushabti bone, and I'm going to thin it down with a little bit of drying retarder to help me improve the flow and the amount of time that the paint stays wet on the tip of my brush, and I'm going to edge highlight all of the edges of this model. This is an easy step. If you wouldn't like to do this, you don't have to, but it gives that extra edge highlight that looks pretty good on this model. The model just washed and cleaned up with the previous yellow looks very good, but this gives it an extra kick, and it looks pretty nice. From here on, the armor is finished, and I'm going to use Abbadon black, and I'm going to paint all of the metal details and the places that you want to be black. I would recommend using small brushes. Here I'm using a number 2 brush to paint the vulture, but most other details like the tubing and places that you want to be metal around the armor are very small details, so you can switch to a small detail brush and just pick those places up and be patient, because cleaning up the yellow after you use black on it is very difficult. So if you mess up, try to be patient and give it a couple of layers, and don't try to rush it with just one coat of thick paint, because you're going to mess up and it's going to look very bad. Here I'm using Leadbelcher to pick up the places that I want to be metal. I want most of the details to be black. Black and yellow looks pretty nice, so I'm minimizing the amount of metal that I'm using. Next, Sandri dust I'm going to use to base coat the scrolls from the purity seal. And next, Khorne red. This color is going to be used on the rest of the trimming on the shoulder pads and the aquila symbol on the chest plate of the model. I also decided to paint the eyes on red. You can go for any color that you like. I've seen Imperial Fists on red eyes colors. I have seen them on green and on blue. I decided to go with red because I thought it looks good, but you can use any color that you like. Next, the last color that I'm going to use is Balthasar gold, and with this color I'm going to paint the details on the vulture. Once it's done, the model is fully base coated. I'm going to use Agrax Earthshade, and with this I'm going to give a wash to the aquila symbol on the chest plate. I'm going to wash the metallics, and that's it. I'm using a fine detail brush to wash very carefully the places that I want to wash, and being very careful not to get into the yellow, because it's very easy to stain with other colors. Next, Ushabti bone again. I'm going to use this color to highlight the purity seal. Remember, all of the colors that I'm using in this tutorial are thinned down with water or drying retarder if you prefer, but most of them are thinned down with water. Some of them are thinned down with drying retarder to help the flow and improve on the smoothness with which it goes into the model. The second highlight for the purity seal was Screaming Skull. Here I'm using Eshin gray to edge highlight all of the black places on the model, which is the vulture case and the black parts around the armor of the model. This highlight is subtle. I don't like my blacks to look very gray, but you can use downstone afterwards to give it a final highlight. I didn't, I just gave it an Eshin gray, and that's it. Next, I'm using Runefang steel, and with this color I'm highlighting all of the metallic parts around the model, trying to pick the edges and places that are exposed to light and leaving the recesses on the previous color. Next, I'm going to use Gehena's gold to highlight the gold. The first highlight is going to go on all of the places that are exposed to light and leaving just the recesses on the previous color, the same as when painting the silver. To finish up the gold, I'm going to use Auric Armor Gold, and this color is going to be painted just on the places that are facing up, that are exposed to light, to give it a final highlight, leaving a little bit of Gehena's gold showing close to the shadows. Next, Wazdakka Red is going to be the first highlight for the red. I'm going to use it as an edge highlight around the trim of the shoulder pad. I'm going to use it on the front part of the lens of the Marine, and I'm going to use it on the aquila symbol on the chest plate of the model. When you're using it on the chest plate, try to leave the recesses on the previous color, and most of the other areas give it a highlight with this Wazdakka Red. Fire Dragon Bright is a very bright orange color. I'm going to use it as a secondary highlight for the lens and all of the parts that are red. On the lens, I'm just touching the very front part of the lens. The shoulder pads, I am using a very thin edge highlight, leaving a little bit of the Wazdakka Red showing. And on the aquila symbol, I'm just trying to pick up the sharpest edges. And to finish it up, I'm going to use White Scar to give a reflection of light to the very back part of the lens of the Marine. And this is the finished model. I hope you liked this tutorial. I really enjoyed painting this Imperial Fist. Imperial Fists are one of my favorite looking Space Marines from the regular chapters. It's a little bit more difficult to paint the yellow than usual, but it's very worthwhile to paint a whole force this way because they look very striking on the battlefield. The yellow color really calls your eye and looks very good on the tabletop. And even though it could be frustrating to paint yellow, if you do it right, it looks very good. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial. I hope you found this tutorial informative and helpful, and that you learned a thing or two about painting yellow. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them on the comment section below. Follow me on Facebook, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. You stayed. Great. Thank you very much for watching my video, and if you would like to further support my channel, you can become my Patreon on Patreon. You can pledge as little as $1 a month, and you are helping me create more and better content. If you can't, that's fine, because you're helping my channel a lot just for watching and sharing, but you can read all of the details if you follow the link in the description below. I hope you can spare $1 to make this hobby of mine a job for which I can get paid. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video.